Well done. You've hired your first member of staff. And somehow when you started your business, you never thought about hiring a team, about managing people and what that was going to look like and what your style was. My name is Nell. I'm an action coach, business coach, and one of the key things I often talk about with my clients is, gosh, I've now all of a sudden got these people working for me and I'm not a great manager and I don't even know where to start or what to do. So let me talk you through a couple of books that I always recommend my clients to read when they start hiring a team and why I recommend those. So the first one is really simple. The 1 Minute Manager, Ken Blanchard. Now, his whole 1 Minute Manager series is fantastic, but this is a great one because it talks you through a couple of top tips around how should you lead your team in a way that you can create open communication, in a way that you can praise them when they're doing some really good work, but then equally, how do you need to redirect them? How do you give feedback? How do you tackle things when they don't go right? It's in a really simple story, written really simply, very easy to implement in your day-to-day business, and an easy read. Always helps, right? So the 1 Minute Manager, Ken Blanchard, is always the first book that I would recommend. So there we go. The second one that I recommend, funnily enough, when I said 1 Minute Manager, here we go. Here's a second one. 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. Very similar thoughts, and it kind of recaps a little bit on the previous book, but it also talks about, and we all know people like this, problems and situations arise at work, and what they do is they go, oh, I need XYZ sorted, and they walk away. And therefore the monkey sits on your shoulder. And this is about learning to recognize that, but also learning to redelegate and getting them to do the work in the best possible way. One of the key things I often say to my clients, because they have questions, doesn't mean you always have to answer them. You should answer them, but answer them with a question. Teach them something. Don't keep giving them the answer, because if you keep giving them the answer, they will always need you and will always come back to you for the answer. So that talks very much around how do you not do that? How do you get them to go away and find the answer themselves before they then maybe come and check in with you? It talks about there's two kind of different ways of managing depending on the people that you have in front of you. So 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey, part of the 1 Minute Manager series, book number 2. Now, as you will know, we have different personalities and different people, and sometimes it can be really hard when you realize that someone is a different personality type to you and you have to manage them. And what we often do is we manage people in the way that we think we want to be managed, in the way that for us makes sense. But actually for someone else, that might be something totally different. So a slightly chunkier read, as you can see here, but Surrounded by Idiots talks about those different personality types and what that means and what they're great at, but also how they need communicating to differently. And it's a great book. And I would often say to clients, this is a reread. So this is a great read when you've got your first employee. I would reread it with your second. I would reread it potentially at least once a year. The key to this is starting to recognize pretty quick who the other colors or disc profiles, so this is very much based on the disc profile, psychometric profile, done a video on that as well, so go and have a look in more detail what that means. But what each of these different profile needs and how you learn to recognize them, and then how can you start managing them in a way that gets the best out of them, not necessarily out of what you need. First point. Second point with this as well, especially if you have more than one member of staff, some of these profiles could easily clash, and if that's happening within your team, it helps you manage the team more easily. So Surrounded by Idiots, highly recommended. All of these books so far have been on Audible, so you can read them or listen to them at the same time. And then the last one, and it's a little bit of a curveball, this one, is Who Moves My Cheese? And it's an oldie but a goodie, also a tiny one, so good one if you're really busy. And this is all around change. And so it doesn't actually have much to do with team, but what I find with my clients is that, first of all, as a business owner, you've had a lot of change going on. You've got your first, second member of staff, so lots of change in how you're working, in the energy that you may have in the business. So that's an important one. But actually, a lot of my clients get their teams to read this as well, to really look at the changes, especially in small businesses, can be so rapid, and it helps them identify, how do I deal with change? Where am I naturally sitting when it comes to change? And actually, what are maybe some of the things that I need to be aware of to make that a little bit different? So those are my 4 recommendations that I would normally give to new managers or to business owners who are managing staff for the very first time. Now, if you're a little bit more developed at this stage already, and you've not read any of these books, but you've got a couple of team members and you kind of go in, I should have known this when I first started, but I didn't, and now is a good stage. But you've already got a couple of team members. A throw-in book that I would give you there is Radical Candor by Kim Scott, which is all around how to create a really open environment for leaving feedback, for sharing ideas, etc. It's kind of corporate based. She has a massive background in the large corporate places like Google, Apple. So really large, but actually it's a great system to integrate open and honest communication within the workplace, and how that starts from the top. So Radical Candor, Kim Scott, is another extra throw-in. If you've already got a couple of team members and you go, you know what, I've never done any management skills, no management training, and I want to start somewhere, then that would be an extra one for you to read on top of these 4 that I've just recommended. Because even though you might already have a team and you've never done any management training, these books will nicely take you back to basics. So happy reading. Let me know what your key takeaways are.